So thank you for joining us. Welcome, Sophie. Welcome, Ches.
Thank you.
Great to have you with us. I guess where the idea for this webinar came from, well, it's I guess you could say it's the need of our time, isn't it? With particularly with lockdown, stress is something that we're all having to face. And you know, a number that really struck me was that in our 2021 Culture Economy report, all the businesses surveyed, 68% of them said that people were reporting increased mental health issues in their organizations. And the most common reason cited for that was stress. So it's something that we're all facing, you know, whether you're a business owner or an HR person or an employee within an organization. Stress can get at us. So what we're looking at here is we brought on Ches, who's been working in the world of managing stress for many years. And what we're looking to try and do is to cover some things in this webinar to help you as business owners or you as caring colleagues understand more about stress, spot maybe more stress in the workplace, reduce your own levels of stress, and really offer some very practical tools. So look, that's enough for me. Let me hand over, I don't know, go ladies first, hand over to Sophie for an introduction of yourself, and then hand over to Ches.
Okay, thanks, Jonathan. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us on what's a really important topic. So my name is Sophie Forrest. I'm the founder and owner of Forrest Health and Wellbeing. We have sister companies, which is Forrest HR and Forrest Training Academy. HR obviously offers outsourced HR solutions, and Training Academy offers training, coaching, and also health and safety services. And we also are a gold partner of Breathe. So I'm going to hand over to Ches now, who's going to talk a little bit more about our health and wellbeing company, and also talk to you today about stress management.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much for that, Sophie, and thank you, Jonathan, as well, for the opportunity to come and share some value with everyone this afternoon. I'm just going to share my screen here, and that's not it. That's what we want right there. Good. Now we're set to go. Good afternoon. Yes, as Sophie was saying, so I'm just pleased to be able to come onto this and share what I can in the time that I have, and may be able to not just to help you as an individual, but be able to give you some information that will allow you, because you're all HR managers and consultants, HR workers, that you'll be able to turn around and give some of this information and be able to identify, help some of the colleagues, some of the employees in your organizations to whom you're interacting with on some of these important matters. So I'm really happy to be able to have that opportunity. Sophie was saying, Forrest Health and Wellbeing is a part of the Forrest Group, established in 2018. It does sit along, she said, it sits alongside the Forrest HR and Forrest Training Academy, which together offer a full suite of support, tools, and guidance required to grow your business through effective and positive people management. That's what we do. We provide, programs delivered by our industry experts, and you'll see what that pertains to as we go through the presentation. Why do we do this? Well, because we recognize that there's a lot of people who are burned out, disillusioned, a lot of people who feel marginalized, a lot of people who don't feel that they're getting the best that they can for what they need in their workplace and in their life, that will help them to maintain being happy, productive employees, and that's what we want to do. Just quickly a little bit about me. I've been doing what I do in one form or another, in one part of the world for another, for about the last 30 years. I'm one of those people that are concentrating on people, and I've come to the conclusion, I'm a certified stress management consultant. And the reason I decided, and my background is psychotherapy, the reason why I decided to specialize in stress management is because over the years, when I first got into this as a career, I realized everything that all my clients were telling me always seemed to come back down to stress. There always seemed to be about stress. So I thought if I was going to be of any use to my clients, I needed to go out and learn a little bit more about stress, and that's exactly what I've done. So let's get into it then. That's enough about me. The goals of the presentation. what we're looking to achieve in the next short few minutes will be the, I'm going to tell you what stress is, what stress really is. I'm going to talk about the two types of stress there is, and there are only two types. And along the way, I'm going to provide you some tips and techniques and some ideas, some information that will help you be able to get control of your stress. As I say, be able to help other people in your realm as well.
Yes, can I just pause you there for a second? I'm going to launch a poll. So we've got a poll for everybody to have a look at and fill out. Should only take a minute or so. But if you carry on, once I launch the poll, everybody will be able to see it. And then we'll close it down once a good number of people have responded. So sorry for the interrupt.
No, not at all. No, that's great. Let's find out what everybody's thinking. Let me take that there. Good. So while you're filling out the poll, and a lot of you can probably multitask a lot better than I was able to prove I could do before we came online. So you can do that and listen to some of what I'm saying at the same time, and then refocus. But what I wanted to do to start with then is just to really look at some numbers. Now I know that some of you, and I saw somebody there coming in from Gibraltar. I know people are coming in from various places in the world, but the numbers that I have that I want to talk to you about to put this into context are numbers that basically deal with the research that we've been able to do here in the UK. So really what we found out is that 60%, almost 60% of the organizations in the United Kingdom tell us that ill mental health is the cause of people being signed off long term. 60% of the organizations. And within that 60% then, about half, 51%, tell us that it's stress, depression, and anxiety are the parts of that mental ill health that people are reporting about. And leading to over half of the days lost due to health issues are mental health, and these are the three components of that ill mental health that people are signing off for. You know, almost 1 million workers in the United Kingdom suffer from some kind of work-related stress, and we found out that there's a proliferation of females between the ages of 25 and 44 who suffer significantly more than their male counterparts. And that's a bit staggering. Finally, we can see that almost 90% of the organizations in the UK have reported that people are coming to work, coming to the workplace, and sharing their doing what they're trying to do, what they're supposed to be doing, even though they probably shouldn't be there. And when we start to think about that, we start to think about the effect that has then on the organization, where, you know, there's a knock-on effect to the morale of other people that they're associating with in the workplace. Their own productivity then is down. This all leads to a lot of loss of productivity, and it's costing the companies and the organizations on their bottom line. So that's the depth of what we're looking at. One last thing here is that you'll see where really 88% of the companies and the organizations in the UK have some kind of a plan, but only 11% have something that is dedicated towards stress management or resilience training. And so I'm left to wonder what the others who are doing something or trying to do something are doing, because, you know, we know the research shows that it's not free gym memberships, it's not, you know, fresh air, it's not potted plants in the cafeteria. That's not having any effect. There's something else that has to happen in order for this all to go well and to make sense. So then this is where we come in at Forrest Health and Wellbeing. These are some of the things that we can do, some of the programs that we put into place that have to do a lot with people, not just in their workplace, but in their whole life, because we have to recognize that who you are at home or in your community is usually who shows up in the workplace. So how you are out there is how you are in here. And sometimes it's more about out there than in here. So we take a more holistic approach to all of this. And so we have, health and nutrition, fitness, will writing, estate planning, mortgage clinics, medical, health and well-being portal, stress management, the whole gamut. There's a whole bunch of elements that play into what is otherwise known as mental health and ill mental health, and to be quite frank. So let's define what stress is, because if you don't know what it is, you can't fix it. Now, in my latest book, I write about how people use the word stress as a verb or an adjective, like being stressed or having stressed or stressed out, which are all common phrases we hear people use a lot. But stress is really a noun. It's the name of a system that's wired into our brain. It's a word that describes an entire system. Its purpose is to protect us from harm. And if it's managed correctly, stress can actually be a lifesaver. But when it's managed poorly, then it brings us a lot of pain and suffering. So for example, if you were on a trekking holiday in Southeast Asia somewhere, for example, if you were on a trekking holiday in Southeast Asia, and you're going down the path with your mates or with your group, and you go around the bend, and there's down the path about 100 yards, there's a tiger, and as you see the tiger sees you, and that's when your positive stress system is going to kick in, because that's that inbuilt system that we have, that all the chemicals start firing off in the brain, our tissue, our muscles get bigger, the blood starts to flow faster, we enter that fight, flight, or freeze. There are three of them: fight, flight, and freeze syndrome, where then we decide what we're going to do. And that's that positive stress system that we have inside of us that's there to protect us. And that's what it is. I call it a positive stress system. But there is another one. That's the one that we're going to talk about now through the rest of this presentation. That's the one that people are feeling weighing heavy on. It's debilitating. That's the kind of unwanted stress that you and maybe your colleagues and the people in your organization who are signing off, this is the stress that they're about. And it's, would you guess, I call it negative stress. So breaking it down one level farther then, let's take a look and really understand what stress is now that we've defined it. So stress is not medical. Now, while it's true that high levels of stress can cause a lot of burnout, a lot of physical maladies, those maladies are not the stress. Those are the symptoms of the stress. And the unfortunate part is that the system usually starts to focus in on the symptoms, and not the cause. But stress is not medical, and stress is not mental either. Now, I know there's people who will be saying, and some of you are probably out there thinking right now, just a minute, Chess, surely not being stressed, is all about positive mental health. And you're not wrong. I agree with you, but we're not born with levels of stress so high, so intense, that they make our lives miserable. This is not who we are, and that's not how we're built. So stress is not mental either. So if it's not medical and it's not mental, then what really is it? And so here comes the absolute fact, 100% truth, about the negative stress that you think that you may be suffering from. And the one who creates it, the one who promotes it, the one who drives it, wait for it, it's you, which is why we call it stress management. It's all about management. It's all about management because only you can manage your stress. So when we break it all down, you are responsible for your stress, and you are responsible for managing your stress. So let's take, if I'm going to, I don't like to use the word blame, but we can use that word for a moment. If I'm going to identify you as the cause of your stress, let's find out about you then. Why do I say that? Well, if you're a human being and you're functioning on the planet today, you do three things, and you do three things only. You think, you feel, and you behave. Now, behavior can be subdivided into actions and reactions, because really that's all you're doing. You're either proacting or reacting. There's no third acting. But then you see that there are three components left on that cube. And so because we're human, and this is our native planet, planet Earth, then what makes up planet Earth? Well, there are only three things on planet Earth. There are people, there are places, and there are things. So this is why I say that stress is about you, and you're the cause of your own stress, and you're also the solution to your own stress, because it's how you think, feel, and behave in relation to people, places, and things that dictate the quality of your life, that dictate the level of your stress.
Yes, can I jump in there? Because we've had a really interesting question come in from Lawrence. He's saying, isn't stress a symptom of 20th century life? That it's just something that life in general throws at us?
Well, the modernization of 20th century life has certainly raised the impact and the level of stress, but stress is not something that's germane to the 20th century. Stress is something that humans have had at varying levels, at varying degrees through their history of humankind. It's not. I understand where Lawrence is coming from, and I would agree that probably there may be a lot more of it because there's a lot more of us.
Right.
But it's something that has been with us as long as we've been.
And there's a second part to the question, which is actually a little bit confrontational. But isn't it something that should be addressed by medical professionals rather than well-being organizations?
Most of the clients, most of my private clients have come to me. They've come to me because they've been on the receiving end of medical, and it hasn't worked because it's about how we think, feel, and behave. As I say, stress isn't medical. The maladies, the burnout, the IBS, the heart attacks, the high blood pressures in some cases, although that sometimes is just your genetics. But all of these things that we suffer from as a result of stress are just that. Those are the symptoms of the stress, not the stress themselves. So if you're having medical issues, yes, please go to a GP, go to some medical practitioner, some qualified medical practitioner, and have those medical maladies addressed. But understanding that those are only the results of your stress, not the stress itself. And the GP, for all the good that they do, they're not inherently qualified, specifically qualified, to be able to perhaps deal with the cause of your stress, which is how you think, feel, and behave, which is what psychotherapists, psychologists, psychiatrists do.
Got it. Sorry, I interrupted you.
No, that's fine. No, great question. I hope that I've answered it to everyone's satisfaction. So there are 4 negative stressors, and we talked about positive stress. We're going to leave that alone because we're not on a trekking holiday in Southeast Asia right now. So the negative stress then, there are 4 negative stressors, and the first one is time. Now, time, people talk about time management. We can't manage time because time is fixed. I mean, Well, there's only 60 minutes in my hour, and there's only 24 hours in my day. And if you have 25 hours in a day, well, then take me to your leader, because you're not from this planet. So we all have the same time. So we can't manage the time. What I would suggest to people is, again, examine how you manage yourself within the time that you have. And then you'll be able to make some modifications, and you're going to find that your stress is going to start to come down maybe to a bit more manageable level. Now, these next three, or the last three as it were, are uniquely related to each other. And I would say to you as HR professionals that you're going to be able to start to identify, as I talk about anticipatory stress and the two after that, you're going to be able to start to identify the people who are coming into your office, the people in your organization who are complaining about stress, getting signed off. You're going to now be able to start to identify in a more analytical way as to what it is happening with them, and then maybe be able to come up with perhaps some solutions, or hire the right professionals to be able to do that. So anticipatory stress is one of them. People who suffer from anticipatory stress are people who worry about the future, who get stressed about the future. Most of the time, the best case scenario, failure. And then, of course, the other extreme, disaster. And this is the clarion call of people who suffer from anticipatory stress. So I would say that for these people, in a couple of quick sentences, get some clarity on what can help them and balance out your negative self-talk. People who suffer from anticipatory stress, because it's about the future, it's always about what if. Well, what if they don't sign the contract? What if the supplier doesn't deliver on time? What if it all goes wrong? What if I don't get my bonus? What if the sky falls down? What if it all is just bad, bad, bad? Great.
Oh boy, do I relate to that one.
Okay, well, good. Well, I'm never in a position to be able to advise people to stop their negative self-talk, because I know that it's near impossible to do. What I would suggest that you might want to consider then is to balance it out with positive self-talk. So, like, what happens if they deliver on time? Well, like, what happens if they actually do sign the contract? What happens if we do get paid the bonus? What happens if it all goes right? Just kind of balance it out a little bit. Do yourself and the people around you a favor, and balance that out with that positive self-talk. And when you've done that for a while, once again, it's about how you think and how you think to yourself, because the thinking comes first, and then the feelings and the behavior come after that. The third one is the situation. So people who suffer from situation stress or stressors, they're people who conceptualize that they don't have any control over the events. They're people who would be afraid to make a mistake, maybe because they think that they're going to be embarrassed, or they're going to be made to look foolish, or they're going to feel humiliated in front of their colleagues or in front of people. So again, I go back to this. Just become aware of your own thoughts, your own feelings around all of that, and then that will lead to different behavior, which then also you'll see your confidence level start to rise. And when your confidence level goes up, your stress level comes down. And this is just a fact of life. And the last and final one then is encounter. People who suffer from encounter stress, or allow encounter to be their stressor, are usually people who are frightened to act. Or maybe because they have to deal with people who they don't like, or maybe people who are a bit unpredictable. That's also a high frequency equation for people who suffer from encounter stress. The only thing that I could say quickly about that then would be that these are the people who would want to invest in raising their people skills, and maybe concentrate a bit more on tightening up their social skills, and how they're going to then deal with some of these people that they would rather not have to encounter, but have to, because it's part of what they do. So very quickly, those are the 4 negative stressors. I hope that that's going to be of some value to you. You're going to be able to start to identify some of the people who are coming in, some of the reports that you're seeing, people are getting signed off. You're going to be able to start to analyze that a little bit better and know where on the spectrum of the 4 negative stressors they reside.
Yes, there's a question come in from Anne. What's the difference between anticipatory stress and anxiety?
Well, anxiety is the well, that's an excellent question. I haven't been asked that one before. That's great. Thank you very much. So stress is this negative stress, what we're talking about. Stress is either the cause of or the result of most of what's wrong with us. Yeah. So stress is in the equation, which is one of the reasons why I went up and became a certified stress management consultant. So anxiety, at least in the UK, is actually it's got a stamp on it as a mental as a negative mental health situation, whereas actually stress doesn't. Stress and anxiety are not the same thing. They're 2 different things. Now, people who suffer from anxiety would be people who are suffering from anticipatory stress because they're anxious about the future. And when you're anxious enough for a long period of time, that starts to impact your stress level. And then as your anxiety goes up, your stress level goes up. But we find that after a while, who wins the race? Unfortunately, the stress does. And you're going to become far more stressed, and you stay stressed for longer while your anxiety is at a slightly lower level. So anxiety and anticipatory stress are two different sides of the same coin. I hope that answers the question. Now,
Thanks.
You're welcome. I find that a lot of people over the, as I say, about the 30 years or so I've been doing this in different parts of the world, I find that a lot of people, I mean, a good amount of people are always talking about how they're not getting good sleep. And it's a problem for people because if you have a sleeping disorder, then you're not getting the full benefit of the sleep and rest that you need mentally, physically, in order to carry on the kind of life, whatever life that you're engaged in, particularly when you're getting up in the morning and going off to your workplace without having the requisite amount of sleep and rest that you require. So what I wanted to do, I thought what I'd do today is come on, just to end up my side of this presentation would be, I'm going to explain to you 2 different techniques that if you're, I don't have the, and I don't think you'd be very interested because it's all a lot of technical, but I'm going to guarantee you that the 2 techniques that I'm going to explain to you, both of them will work. I guarantee it. Because it's a confluence of your subconscious mind, your brain, and your conscious mind. And it's one of those times when the 3 of those come together in such a beautiful way that it just works. So I'm going to explain 2 techniques to you. Both of them will work. Now, one will always work better than the other. I can never tell by looking at a person which one it is, whether it's technique A or technique B. Both of them will work, but one will always work better. So I would encourage you to try both of them a couple of times. You're very quickly going to recognize which one works better, which then of course is the one you're going to gravitate towards and leave the other one behind. So for some it'll be number A and some it'll be technique B. But before I describe the techniques, let's look at sleep disorders. So people with sleep disorder usually fall into one of 3 categories. Category 1. You know, you're laying on your mattress, you've got your duvet up over you, your head on your pillow, you've got your eyes closed. I mean, you got to close your eyes if you're trying to get to sleep. It helps. So But you have a hard time getting, lots of people lay down at night when they go to bed at night, and it takes them a while. They don't seem to be able to get off to sleep for a while. And they lay awake, and then good sleep time is wasting away. And they finally do get off to sleep, and then they sleep through the night, and they wake up the next morning when the alarm goes off, and boom, off to work they go and have their day. And then the same thing happens, quite frequently through the week, and sometimes the weekend. Many nights that they don't fall off to sleep when they lay their head down. Category 2 are people who, they don't have any problem getting off to sleep at night, but they wake up in the middle of the night. And, they start to, I call it mind travel. So they start to mind travel. They're thinking about that meeting, they're thinking about the boss, they're thinking about the neighbor, the car, the mortgage, the dog, whatever, all kinds of stuff that they think about. And it can go on for 10 minutes, 20 minutes. I've had clients tell me that they lay there for about an hour to an hour and a half, just going over it, rehearsing all of the things that they want to think about. And when they do finally go off to sleep after 20 minutes, 40 minutes, an hour and a half sometimes, it's not because they go off to sleep, it's because they've just, passed out from exhaustion. And they wake up in the morning. If they don't wake up again and do the same thing again twice or 3 times in a night, some people do, but let's just say they only do it once. They wake up in the morning, they lost that amount of sleep, they wake up, they're not rested, they get up and off they go to start their day. And then there's category 3. Category 3 people are people who are category 1 and 2 combined. And those people really have some hard slog when it comes to trying to get to sleep at night. So I'm going to describe to you 2 techniques now, again, that I guarantee you will work. So technique 1, or A. So there you are, you're laying on your mattress, you've got your eyes closed, please and thank you, and you want to get to sleep. Whether it's in the beginning or whether you wake up in the middle of the night, whether you're category 1 or category 2. And what I want you to do is I want you to feel your toes. Now, I don't mean, slide your hand down underneath the duvet and tickle your feet. I mean, just become aware of your toes. Just think about your lower limbs. Just become aware of your toes, and you'll be able to start to sort of connect your brain with your toes, and you'll be able to feel your toes. Great. So then relax your toes. Some people will, relax the little toe on each foot, and then some people go all 1 foot before they do the next. Look, there's no right or wrong. Whatever works for you, just relax your toes. And so you would relax the pad, your toe pad underneath the toenail, relax the entire toe, and then just whatever order, however it works for you, relax your toes. When you're finished that, then you relax the pad of your foot. Yeah? And then you go to your arch, then you go to your heel. Now, when you're at your heel, it's very interesting to hear. When we start to think about our heel relaxing, we get all that extra dead skin on our heel. We get this idea that maybe our foot is going to get a little bit, just slightly heavier. Maybe make that little bit of an indentation in the mattress. Perfectly good, no problem. And then you go to your ankle, then you go to your shin, then you go to your calf. Now, your calf, again, a bit special. When we think about the calf being constricted, being tight, because we're stressed, we're tense. But when we think about our calf, relaxing, we relax our calf, it gets bigger, it gets fatter, bigger. We have a sensation that it might be getting heavier. And again, it might sort of make your legs just kind of, dip down into the mattress, make that little indentation. And then you go to your knee, you go to your thigh, you go to the hamstring in the back of your thigh. Now, there's a couple of caveats that I'm sure are coming up in your mind. I'm going to address those right now. So when you're doing this, you're going to start thinking about your stuff. You're going to do your mind travel. And funny thing, we're not usually aware that we start our mind travel when we're starting it. It's only after we've been doing it for a while. We think, hang on a minute, I'm thinking about all this stuff. Let me get back to this thing this guy Chess was telling me about. Great, no problem. No problem. No shame, no blame. If you're going to beat yourself up, use a feather because it doesn't hurt as much, right? So just go back to what you're doing now. Here's the rule. If you can remember what body part you were, well then great, just take the next one. But if you can't, you know what? You got to go back and start at your toes again. And then you'll be going through, and then you'll realize that you've drifted off into your mind. Oh, hang on a second, I've gone back thinking about all my stuff. Great, go back to it. If you can remember where you were, just pick up. If not, back to your toes again, right? Now, if you do this correctly, I guarantee you, you'll never get past your hips before you're asleep. Technique number 2, technique B. That was somnambulistic. Let's change course here now and think about something that's more cognitive. So again, there you are, you're laying in your bed, you get your duvet over, you get your eyes closed, please and thank you. And it just makes it easier for everything to work together. And when you breathe in, say 100. When you breathe out, and I know it sounds a little bit cheesy, a little bit, just work with me because this is what works. When you breathe out, say the word sleep. When you breathe in, 99, sleep. 98, sleep. 97, sleep, and so forth. So you can see you're just counting down from 100. Yeah. Now, again, the caveat is, of course, you're going to be starting to think about all your, hang on a second, I went off thinking about all my stuff. Let me get back to this thing this guy Chess was telling me about. Great. If you can remember what number you're at, just take the next number down. Not a problem. But if you can't, you got to go back and start at 100. Okay? Now, what's going to make this work, it's critical to the success of this technique, is that the number is always on the in-breath. The word sleep is always on the out-breath. And, we have a resting breathing rate. And so the resting breathing rate is going to be probably slower than if your resting breathing rate is as fast as I was doing it just for sake of demonstration, you're going to hyperventilate. So you're going to have more problems in getting to sleep. But whatever your resting breathing rate is, we recognize that when we breathe in, we don't hold our breath at all. We breathe out quite quickly. But sometimes when we breathe out, it can be a while before we breathe back in again. Whenever your next breath, take the next number. The word sleep is always on the out breath. You try both of these techniques. Some of you will say it's B, and for some of you, it will be A. That's all I can tell you about that. All that is left for me to do remains for me to do now is just to wish you pleasant dreams. So, Forrest Health and Wellbeing, if you like some of what we're about and you think that we may have something to offer, we do. We have our introductory program, which is based on our 6-step approach, which has a lot to do with research, analysis. Then, of course, we're going to make some recommendations, and we'll carry you through to there, and how those recommendations, what we can show you and tell you that will have a positive impact on your people, and therefore then on your organization.
Yes, can I just question you on something there to do with the sleep exercise?
Please.
Which comes first? It's kind of a chicken and egg question, I think, but which comes first, the lack of being able to sleep or the stress? Because it's pretty stressful to not be able to get to sleep when you know you've got to.
Yes, stress comes first, then the lack of sleep will just add on to it. It piles onto it. But people will have stress before they can't get to sleep, unless there's some medical disorder, something else that they have. Of course, there's all kinds of reasons why people can't sleep well or don't sleep well at night that are medical related. But in terms of what we're talking about, in terms of stress and the mental, the thinking, feeling, behaving, that side of it, the stress always comes first.
Right.
And then if I'm not getting enough sleep, then that just adds to my stress.
Yep, got it. We've got some nice chats coming in suggesting that Technique A is working for people. Hopefully it's not working during the webinar.
I was going to say the same thing, folks. We're almost there. Maybe it's the sound of my voice. So it's a
very calming voice.
Well, I appreciate that. The second offering that we have, something you might be interested in, is more of an all-round program, what we call a holistic program that will support your people, not just in the workplace, but again in their professional and their personal lives. Because again, who you are out there is who you bring into the workplace most of the time. So we want to make sure that when they're coming to work, whether their stress is at the workplace or whether it's outside the workplace, when they come to the workplace, They know how to be able to manage and control their stress so they can be happy and productive employees.
I'm
And
going to chip in again there. Sorry, I got another one on that one. We as business owners, how much of a responsibility is it of ours to help our employees with their stress? Is it, I didn't phrase the question very well. Is it something that people have to look out for themselves, or can we as business owners help them?
Well, my experience here, I've been here in the UK now since 2011, so what, about 9 years, a little over 9 years, but 9.5 years. My experience here is that there is, in the UK, as I'm sure there probably is in most of the countries, developed countries around the world, and some of the higher developing countries around the world where people are, tuning into this program, there's legislation here in the UK that speaks to that, going all the way back to the Health and Safety Act of 1974. Then there was some more in the 90s, and recently there was something in the 2000s that came out. There's a whole raft of legislation and guidelines that speak to the responsibility that employers have to be able to show, if asked, then that they're looking after, that they have some kind of a focus on the mental health and well-being of their employees. I expect that there's probably some guidelines, some legislation in most of the countries by now, most of them. That's the answer to the question that I have.
Yep, I totally support it. And one thing I'd possibly add to it is that sometimes business owners and business leaders, we forget that we're employees as well. So that same legislation gives us not only it gives us the responsibility to look after our own health and well-being. And that's so easy to overlook, isn't it, when you run your own business?
So many MDs and CEOs and C-suite executives that have come to me over the years that I get engaged with, they say, look, basically one guy said it right out. This is his exact words. He said, fix me, because if you fix me, you fix the rest of the company, because it all trickles down. And when I got up off the floor, I had to shake his hand, and off to work we went. And we did some good work together.
We got a couple of questions that I want to jump into. There's one in from Amy. So it's linked to what I was talking about. How can we support people to recognize their own role in their stress creation and management without saying that the solution is to just get better at putting up with a bad solution?
Education.
Yep. So what? Running seminars, running.
Yep. Give them an opportunity to have exposure to information that will help them. Again, sometimes just telling people about how we think, feel, and behave is what we do as humans. Sometimes just as knowledge sometimes is enough. Of course, there's a way amount of knowledge that can't be given in an hour presentation, but I have found that there are 4 high frequency categories where stress resides: communication, motivation, relationships, and planning.
Just say those again for me.
Communication, motivation, relationships, and planning. And I'd probably say 99.99999% of all the stress that my clients over the last 30 years have expressed to me are as a result of one of, some of, or all of those 4 categories.
Interesting.
Yeah. So just no, it's not a matter of having to just figure out how I'm going to put up with you. The best way to solve that is to get you some information that will help you, and then that helps the both of us, doesn't it?
That's question in, just following on from that, from Lara. Trying to paraphrase it. Most of the stressors linked to the fear of the outcome of the lack of time, potentially a potentially negative encounter, or how you'll feel after sleep or lack of sleep. How much can you do as an employer to assist with the outlook employees have in relation to anticipation?
Just repeat that last part of the question again.
How much can you do as an employer to assist with the outlook employees have in relation to anticipation?
Well, again, it comes down to training. It comes down to exposing them to, to identifying what their situation is, having them buy into that identification and analysis, and then putting some action into play, and being able to expose them to programs and information, exercises that they will be able to help. See, stress is not something that you can stress is not something that you can put your hands around. You affect other things that then impact the stress level. So stress is a byproduct of all those other things, as we discussed before when I was giving the examples of medical, right? And mental. So confidence is a big one that I find, particularly when it comes to relationships. As the confidence level goes up, the stress comes down. Stress is always the result of, or is usually the result of, or the cause of most of what's wrong with us. So when we affect those other things, then they impact the stress. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yeah, I think I get it.
So stress is either the cause of or the result of most of what's wrong with us. So when you impact those other things, then that's a knock-on effect to the stress.
So if it's the cause of or the result of, that's suggesting it's a spiral, and it can be an upward spiral or a downward spiral.
Yes, that's
right. And as an individual, we have to interrupt the flow.
Yes, that's correct. So, they have this, we have this phrase now these days, issues, you got issues. People say you got issues. So stress, so your issues are stress is either the cause of your issues or the result of your issues. So stress is in the equation. It just depends on which side of the equal sign it's on. So your issues either cause your stress or your stress causes you your issues. You sort your issues out and you're going to sort your stress out.
Yeah.
Make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, great.
I just got a question for you, Sophie, just to chip in there. We've been working together for a long time.
Yes.
And I'm just interested in what you saw in the industry or in what you do that suggested that setting up a health and well-being division was something that you really needed to jump in and do. Are you seeing that day to day? Are you going into clients with your HR practice and saying, actually, the problem's bigger?
Yes, I guess is the short answer. I mean, the health and well-being, Forrest Health and Wellbeing was in its sort of stage of growth and building it and pulling it all together for probably a good couple of years before it launched in December last year. So way before, the word furlough was ever mentioned, Corona was an enjoyable word. It's something that I've been seeing for a long time. And many companies that I worked when I was in-house HR and was in London and other places, but working for, slightly larger organizations, and small things, your bowls of fruit in the kitchen, and, maybe they'd have, certain day of the week, they'd bring lunches in, they'd bring in for people, and they were trying to get everyone together. And it started off with some of those small things. And certainly the bigger companies, the Deloittes, the Legal and General, and some other bigger firms, they've been doing health and well-being for years, and they've got internal teams, doing it. And just some of the smaller pieces, just pulling together, the financial advice and the estate planning, the mortgage advice. A lot of my background is financial services, and it's just a given that you go in and you have one of the first things you do is you meet up with a financial advisor who's helping you with the pension that the company's offering, but is able to offer extra bits. And it seemed almost like the norm, but then you go to other firms where it wasn't the normal. But and one of my HR jobs, I needed to get my will and stuff done, and I thought, I wonder if there's anybody else who wants that. And once we sort of sent out a notification to say, this is what we're doing, is anybody else interested in having a meeting? And so many people were interested in it. And over the years, a lot of this stuff that I've sort of collated, I've just, the whole point of it is to make, I mean, there's so many points of having the health and wellbeing programs in the workplace, but certainly the health and wellbeing champion program for us, that, the list that you can see on the screen there, it's just scratching the surface. We offer that full service of everything, anything and everything that you could think of for health and wellbeing is part of that program. And the idea is that we all lead busy lives, and obviously I know there's a lot of hybrid working and stuff now, so people are at home making their work-life balance a little bit easier. But before, it's where do you go to for a decent mortgage advisor? I've got to take the time off to go and sort that out. I need to sort my wills out. Again, I'm going to have to take time off to do that. Or I need to go and see a doctor for this or that, or a physio, or all these things that you think of in your life that you want, that you just put off and put off and put off because you just don't have the time to deal with it. So bringing all of that to the workplace, it just seemed the perfect opportunity. And mental health awareness and stress management is and health and nutrition. I mean, you could just go on. They're all equally as important. And we need to be educated on it. I'm not going to go out to these businesses and teach this because I'm not an expert. But I have a delivery team with experts, Ches obviously being one of them. We have a whole team of Cheses in their fields. So, I just thought it was just the perfect opportunity for that.
Yeah. And it's interesting that it's a longer term thing than lockdown. Clearly it's going to be longer. Yeah, brilliant. Okay, yeah, getting applaud for that in the chat, Sophie. So that's great. Couple of other questions. Well, I'm sort of conscious of time that we're sort of getting to a close. One in from Helen, just going back to this point about, can you clarify why stress isn't mental? When stressors include things like anticipation, which is essentially all thoughts.
Yes, because when we talk about these things, there's two sides to that word stress. So when we talk about anticipation or anticipatory stress, this is a stressor. This is something that, so remember I said certain things cause your stress, or stress causes certain things. So this is something that causes stress. Stress itself is not mental. Your mental anguish, if you want to use that word, your mental comportment is the result of the stress. And at the same time, it can also be part of the cause of your stress, but it's not the stress.
Got it. I don't know if anybody heard, but I was suffering from some situational stress because my dog has just woken up and decided to come and talk to me in the middle of the webinar. Brilliant. Look, that's fantastic. Thank you. That was really, really interesting. I guess just sort of to try and bring this to a close, Chairs, what's the one thing you would want people to take away from this? What's the one thing that people should go, aha, yeah, I get it?
Well, good question. So the number one takeaway then, figure out what you can control and what you can't, and concentrate on what you can control, which goes back to the cube, how you think, feel, and behave, because how you think, feel, and behave impacts the level of your stress, the quality of your life. That's what you can control.
Brilliant. Okay. And you have a second bite at that question, Sophie?
Yeah, I think, oh, sorry, go on.
No, go on, go.
Yeah, no, it was really just to sort of reiterate that, we're certainly for those who, the business leaders and the HR professionals, here, we can't be experts in everything. And there is some superb experts out there with specialist knowledge in their specialist areas, and we're really fortunate to be able to have them involved in our programs. And if anybody's interested in anything to they want to have a chat through about the two programs are brilliant, if I do say so myself, and but certainly the single opportunities are also good. You don't have to think about the full programs to to benefit from some of these areas.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay, good. And look, I really appreciate you both taking the time to come along here. How would people, we'll be sending out a lot of information after this. We'll be sending out a link to the recording. With your permission, chairs, we'd love to send out the slides. How would people get hold of you? Where would they find out? Where's your favorite communication?
Well, I think if you go to the next slide, I think it is. Oh, that was the goal.
I'm going to just flick through. There were a couple left here, but look, there's my book. Who cares?
Spot the book.
But yes, there's our contact details here. So yes, there's a way that you can contact us. Do visit the website, which is Forrest HW for Health and Wellbeing. So it's foresthw.com. Our brochure and stuff is on there, and then obviously our contact details are on that screen there. So please reach out to either of us if you want to talk anything further.
Brilliant. Look, again, thank you. I mentioned earlier on the culture economy report. So the 2021 version of that's available on the Breathe website. There's also a bunch of resources there, but we'll be dropping an email to everybody with links and everything later on. But other than that, I want to say thank you for your time. Important subject. It's been great to have everybody along, and I look forward to seeing some of you post-lockdown. Cheers, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.